Okay, we're recording. We're live. This is a Soul Purpose Conversation episode number 10. And normally, Yang comes up with a topic, but not because this is episode 10. It just happened to be episode 10. I had something that I wanted to talk about, Jan, and I think also because we did the energetics of money training last week. And it's very interesting because as I express the message and the voice, and then I have some input from, working with Neil and different people, different inspiration and deeper alignment of what we're expressing and intending to do in this world, and the message of the Soul Purpose Group, the vision of it, is that aligning deeper. So, what I wanted to talk about today is I don't have the language just yet, but it's going to come as we speak. So, the way that I want to begin is, one of the messages in the Soul Purpose group is to help shift from the wound to the essence, just like we were just talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the shift from the wound to the essence, for me, is also the same as looking at this physical life from the perspective of the mind or from the perspective of the soul. Yeah. Let me back off a little bit. So, one of the things that I shared last night in the self realization, which I'm going to talk about this on Thursday because we had like a last 5-6 minutes and I started to do a little bit of lesson. And then the time ended. And that was perfect because I wanted to introduce maybe 80% of the people who come to the Monday call, they come to the Thursday call. So we can kind of go deeper. So I have been really enjoying the mentorship with Neil that I'm on right now. And what I'm enjoying the most is because I'm familiar with his work, but I'm not too familiar with his latest work, right? The perspective and the language that he has been evolving into, which is the reason that I joined him.
Mm.
And when I first came across Neil's book, I was in a certain awareness and I'm no longer there. So I do read his stuff, I engage in his stuff, but then making a decision to dive into 3 months, immersing myself in his work is enabling me to absorb what his message is now and then what his message is from my current point of view, and to begin understanding his framing of what he's teaching and to go deeper with my understanding through it. Yeah. So he talked about there are three different realities. Yeah. And it is just one way to frame it for him. A bunch of different ways, right? And he talks about the distorted reality is the reality that we experience through whatever the data that we have in the mind. So something happens, event happens, and he's talking about the distance between event and the reality, because the reality that we experience is not equal to the event that happens, but there's all
Mm.
kinds of beliefs and the thought process and the emotions and the wound and taking things personally. All those is in between, and then the reality that we experience occurs internally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first reality that he talks about is the distorted reality, which is the real, in my interpretation, is the reality perceived through the mind. Yeah. The second reality that he talks about, he used the term observed reality, where event just is, and we don't need to attach any meaning to it, but looking at everything from a neutral perspective, right? This is not good or bad. This is, you know, not prefer or not prefer, no opinion about it, but this happened in period, right? There's no meaning attached to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the third reality that he talks about, he uses the term ultimate reality, is when we understand the journey of the soul. This is also the language that people use, right? When people, the distorted reality that people experience through all the filtering, people perceive that life is happening to them. But when we understand that the ultimate reality perspective, which is the actual same event, but looking at from the lens of the journey of the soul, it's always happening through and for them, because life is a circular, a mirror effect and cause and effect, and it's helping us to remember going back to home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that distinction? Three different realities, right? So, and then when I
Sorry,
said
what's the third one?
the third one is you start understanding the meaning of why this is happening. What's the meaning of this,
Oh,
right?
I understand. Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry, I didn't see the change from the second into the
Right,
third.
right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So number one is distorted reality. Number two is observed reality. Number three is ultimate reality. So then it's the reality that we perceive through whatever the perception, the data that we have is the first one. The second one is we don't filter anything, but event just is observed reality. And number three is going beyond the data that we have and understand that everything is happening in a way that's supposed to be happening in order to wake us up into the essence. Then the same event, not reacting from the data, but understanding the now moment, we start perceiving that reality differently from the lens of the soul. Yeah. This
Mhm.
is a little background story of what I wanted to get into today.
Okay, I have questions, but
Yeah. Again.
can I ask now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt you. Um, okay, so how do I say this? In each in each one, who is doing the looking?
Yeah.
Is the one question, and then I sort of have a question around if there is a difference between the soul looking and the personality looking, so the relative me and the deeper subjective me, between the two, what part does consciousness play in in that?
In
Either for
the observer effect. When you say consciousness plays, how the
so
observer effect plays. Mhm.
So I mean, if I'm in the first type, which I have been before, what it felt like to me, if I try and put words to it or to remembering it, was that I had a personality-based consciousness. Right, it was survival and safety and perceived danger. It wasn't a this is happening for me. It was very much this is happening to me consciousness.
Mhm.
Or I'm not maybe I mean yeah, it must have been some type of consciousness, right?
Yeah. So, mhm.
So then the consciousness, like it deepens, as I awaken more to um the presence of my depths, then the consciousness has new layers or new depths as well. And it moves away. So it also the consciousness. I'm trying to make up words now, but the or language. The consciousness grows or deepens as I deepen. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find language for this.
No, it's interesting. I'm having not deja vu moment, but then I'm putting myself into the experiencing an ultimate reality as I listen to you right now, right? Like, you're speaking. Okay, This is happening right now, and this is the soul's perspective. Okay, so let's simplify a little bit, because I think this is what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
The first step for transformation and realization is to begin noticing, to begin noticing the awareness, to become aware of our awareness, to become aware of our thoughts, to become aware of the feeling and belief and the energy behind the action when we are in the midst of it, not way later after the fact.
Mm.
So, most people, in my observation, who are living in this distorted reality are assuming that I am the thought, I am the belief, I am the emotions and feeling. Therefore, there's nothing beyond that. So you're caged into the identity and not being aware that you can become aware of the thought. And if you are becoming able to become aware of the thoughts, you probably are not one. Then who is the one who is aware of it? And that's how the journey begins,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, who is doing the looking?
Who's doing the looking?
Mm-hmm.
So the distorted reality, there's not that awareness of who is doing the looking, because there's no option. If we ask who is doing the looking for those who are immersed in the distorted reality, they're gonna tell you, "What are you talking about? It's me. It's me. I
Yeah,
am the one, right?" And
yeah.
the definition of I is blend in to the thought process, the internal experience. And when we are caged into that, you start feeling like, because you're not aware of your thoughts or the reaction to life in the moment, you start assuming that this is making me feel this way. The outside is making me feel this way, because there's no room to become aware of the reaction, but you are inside of the reaction. You are the reaction. This must be the cause of it, because this is happening and I'm feeling this way, right? So this is a very good conversation, though, because the main key item that I wanted to talk about is that I am more and more recognizing this pattern, that this failing to access the observed reality and the ultimate reality, and falling into the trap of living in this distorted reality, has created a false perception of what health is, false perception of what growing business is, false perception of the healing. So I want to connect the dots of these threes, because this has been coming up for me as I shared and presented last week, where in the Soul Purpose group, with the main message of moving people into the essence instead of living inside of the wound. And anybody who is catching this video at the first time, the discernment and distinction between the two is that we all have lived a story, that we have absorbed different uh, parents, surroundings, emotions that have shaped a false sense of self through our childhood upbringing and all those information that subconscious have absorbed, because we didn't have a way to reject. Then when we get to adult, that identity starts showing up and
Mm.
projecting to the world, and we call that story of the wound. Means that you're not in control, but you feel like you are traumatized by some sort of incidents from the past, And you start feeling like, okay, why am I attracting only narcissists? Well, from the perspective, the ultimate reality of that is that, do you love yourself, right? Ultimate reality is that, do you feel whole inside of you, or are you trying to feel that gap inside that you think that you created when you're little, and trying to look for something to cover up from the outside? So all those behaviors are a projection and a reflection of the story of the wound. And so then, from a psychologically speaking, people start wanting to fix that, right? Because it's a problem for them. It's a challenge from them, right? They don't want it. Yeah. So that's a natural tendency that the human mind, the distorted reality human mind thinks, I don't like it. This is a problem. I want to change. I want to fix it.
There's
And then
something
you,
wrong with me.
something wrong with me.
Mm.
And you start going to on a healing journey of going to the problem, right?
Mhm.
This is the key though, Jan. Something wrong with me. Let's fix the problem. That's
Mhm.
how healthcare system is run.
Mm.
Something is wrong with my body, with my health. Let's fix the problem, right? This is how business operates most of the time. Something is not working, problem, wrong. Let's fix the problem,
Mhm.
right? So I'm starting to see all the commonality based on these paradigms that most people are living, the distorted reality, right? So then the conversation is, how do we actually operate to change your relationship with yourself, or the actual condition of the health or the business growth from the ultimate reality perspective? That's what I have been sort of playing around with. That has been really fun for me. So let's start with the healing the past trauma stuff, right? And I have triggered so many people, right?
Mhm.
Because I usually ask people to identify and then to not to pay attention to it after that, right? And sometimes the feedback that I get is that when people operate from the place of the mind, Jan, because that's sensitive, right? That's important for them. That has been painful and has been influencing the quality of their life. If I say to not to pay attention to it, most people who have been on the healing journey have been spending a good amount of energy and the life and even finance to be able to solve that problem,
To
right?
think into a solution.
Right. Then, of course, they don't gonna like if I say that's not where you want to go, because they have been dedicated about that, right? Which I understand. And then also, the response or even reaction that I have been getting has been that they think that I am telling them to ignore what's huge for them,
Mhm.
right? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
But here's the thing though. If I say what I say, they think that I'm asking them to ignore. But from my perspective, coming from the ultimate reality, if they continue to focus on the wound and try to change that relationship with the wound, they're actually ignoring who they are.
Mm.
Does that make
Mm.
sense? They're ignoring who they truly are,
Mm.
because by going deeper into defining themselves that I am somebody who is wounded, right?
Mm.
That's way opposite from who we truly are. So when we look at the consequence from the place of dimension of the mind, of course they're gonna change and fix it because that's what they see. but that's not what I'm seeing, right? What I'm seeing is the real you that has no influence by that. And then I know that you had a painful experience. I had one, right? So I'm not saying from the place of ignorance. I myself had a lot of physical pain, psychological pain in my upbringing, and I'm not ignoring that. I'm recognizing that, and I now know that none of those experience or even sense of self that I have gone through have never been who I truly am. And
Mm,
the decision to step into that spiritual dimension is the best way to heal
mm.
because, yeah.
So just two quick questions on this. So in the distorted reality, I've lived a life accumulating experiences that some of them I label as trauma, baggage, whatever, that ultimately influence this very moment, right? And when you would say something like that to me, perhaps not just the perceived trauma from the past that I have, but the entire life's experiences of this identity that I've built is also affecting the way that I respond to the question that you're giving me. You know, like, how dare you gaslight me? How dare you minimize my
Mhm.
life or my trauma or whatever? So that's interesting. And and then
let,
the
let me
question,
let me say
yeah.
something what you said. So if somebody feels that by me saying what I said, how dare you to minimize my life,
Mm,
right? The perspective that I'm seeing from the ultimate reality is that by you not seeing the true you, you are actually minimizing yourself. That's my perspective.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But again, that's just if you're not ready, you're not ready, and that's just going to piss you off as well. But
Exactly.
I mean, how do you carry the message without stepping on people's toes? I guess it just comes down to their readiness to hear it. Perhaps I'm not sure. But the other question that I had was, what is the role of thinking and feeling in the various, because I know, I guess at the distorted level, thinking and feeling is, you want to avoid that because it's all based off my past, but I still think and feel in whatever dimension or reality I'm in, right?
Hmm.
um, it just becomes more intentional or wielded like more like a tool, I guess. What do you think?
Can you clarify when you said what you meant? What's the role of thinking and feeling?
Yeah, so because you started the last bit you spoke about, you said to tell people to identify what it is and then ignore it or don't go there. But at some point you said when they stay in the mind or when they uh, uh, they get into trouble. And I'm assuming you mean from the reality of distortion, but do I stop thinking if I go into the other realities? I mean, I'm still thinking. I still have thoughts, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's the essence view, right? Essence view is the mind, the perception, and the mind that is energized by the ultimate reality.
Yeah.
Because we cannot live without the mind.
So each reality, the mind is energized by that particular reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that in Sandra's book, in the spiritual dimension of the Enneagram, in I think it's type one. Anyway, she says that feeling is, it's more the diamond approach that she talks about, but feeling is um, it belongs to the personality.
Mm. Depending on that's interesting. I wanna kind of read exactly
Hmm.
where you picked up that sentence. I Did you say feeling lives in the dimension of the mind? Did you say that?
Yes. Oh no, feeling lives in the dimension. It belongs to the personality.
Oh, belongs to the personality. Depending
Yeah.
on what you define feeling for me.
Yeah. So it's point four ego melancholy, which is
Hmm.
the big feeler. But uh, yeah, I'll find it. Give me a second.
Hmm.
Okay, so she goes into a section here where she talks about um, uh, uh, the different the different sort of facets of holy origin. She says being in the body is one way to feel by doing vigorous sport. So I'll just read it.
Hmm.
Initially, we may feel united with ourselves when we are strongly in touch with our bodies, feeling ourselves to be fully in our bodies, deeply in touch with our physical sensations and immersed in them. Then she goes on to say that that is challenging because the body ages and that type of thing. So it's a very hard way um, uh, to to uh, create contact with the deeper parts of yourself. And then she says, others feel in touch with themselves when they are fully feeling their emotions. Emotional catharsis can lead to a sense of inner connection, especially for those who have difficulty accessing and or expressing their emotions. Such emotional release is very useful and necessary at a particular stage of inner work when we are dealing with our emotional repression and inhibition. But once we have access to our feelings and ease in expressing them, continual catharsis can be unproductive. Many people become addicted to venting emotionally because it provides a quick high and makes them feel connected with themselves. Since emotions are the feelings of the personality, when in being, we do not experience emotional states as we normally think of them. In time, this dependency on emotional expression and discharge only serves to support our identification with the personality.
Mm. Yeah. I think depending on what we're talking about and how we create a conversation, for me it's gonna be different. For instance, people define feeling and emotion differently. Um, for me, feeling resides in all three dimensions, the third and the fourth and the fifth, where you can feel, you can feel, you can sense and feel intuition, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I do like the idea that you cannot experience without personality.
Hmm. So sorry, this interests me a lot. I'm gonna hold you here till I've got it. So
Mhm.
okay, so I can feel with touch, I can feel emotions, and I can feel through intuition. What is the thinking version of that, right? Because I guess each of those is the different. It could even be the different realities you were talking about, but
Oh, what is the thinking version of that? There's no thinking version of that. That's why
so but
feeling is a secret.
yes, yes, 100%. But if I'm personality based, or if I'm we'll stick with the language of this conversation. If I'm in the reality of distortion, what what is the traits of thinking there? What are the what role does thinking take there? What role does it take in the objective reality, and what role does it take in the ultimate reality? Because I
Oh,
still think, right?
yeah, yeah. Are you asking how I organize my mind in the conversation of thinking in those three realities that I mentioned, the
Yes,
distorted reality and the observed one and the ultimate?
ultimate. Hmm.
there's no opinion in the observed reality,
Oh, yes. Okay.
right?
Okay. Yes.
So there's an event and you see, and you just think whatever you want to think, but there's no opinion opinion based thinking or
Mm-hmm.
even preference. It's just is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The distorted reality, you have a thought based on the survival biology.
Yes, and the accumulation of experiences that influence the
Right,
moment.
right,
Yeah.
right. The ultimate reality is the perspective of the soul, but for the perspective of the soul to experience the moment, you do want to have the thinking in the mind. Yeah. Because we talk about soul and we identify what soul is in the mind, but in the dimension of the fifth dimensional spiritual plane where the soul lives, there's no experience. That's why we came here in the
Mm-hmm.
space-time reality to experience something. And in order for us to experience something, we need the soul needs the mind and the body,
Needs the personality.
the personality.
Mm-hmm.
Then living an ultimate reality in this physical world doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion. You do have thought and opinion, but it doesn't come from the distorted, fixated, egoic place, but the opinion and idea is based on and energized by love, energized by expansion, energized by understanding, energized by care, energized by all the feeling that allows us to feel expansive.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the question?
No, yeah, that was perfect. Please continue.
So that was the dynamic around the healing because many people. Here's the thing, right? When we look at healing from a distorted reality point of view, we think that we need to heal. But when we look at healing from a ultimate point of view, we understand that we already are healed. And then when the mind aligns with that truth, the healing happens on its own. That's the difference. So then let's apply that to the health, right? I mean, healing is sort of a part of the health stuff, right?
Yeah, I was
So
about to ask. So the healing you were talking about was more about like the overall healing of my emotional wound, right?
yeah, yeah. But what I just said exactly is how we want to apply to any like physical or quote unquote disease, right? Because disease happens from often from a psychological standpoint, and there are a lot of things that has been studied around neuroplasticity and epigenetics. So, you know, I'm not saying that 0% environment, but more than people think, it comes from our assumption, right? The energetics, the
Mm-hmm.
observer effect, because life mirrors the subjective experience. So when we start assuming something, we will manifest that in the body. Then instead of trying to fix or trying to solve the problem, we align with the new idea. New idea is the place that has an infinite possibilities and the greatest version of you, the feeling of everything is aligned. And when we enter that, different ways will be shown. But we're not talking about anything different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the healthcare industry, which I think it needs to be called illness care industry, has a different paradigm and the viewpoint. And I think because people tend to conform, people tend to get hypnotized by the social norm, people start operating in that way because that's how it's done.
Mm.
Now, let's talk about the soulpreneur work and the soul purpose group that we run is the same, right? So we're not trying to fix the problem. We're not trying to do things, but we're energizing the new idea for expansion, right? And there's going to be a belief, the ladder of belief to move into the knowing. And we do want to, we do want to know and be willing to learn different tools like intranet or different things. Although you can attract those people who specialize in that to begin growing stuff, but the idea here is that can we, because the new definition of success is wholeness inside and expansion outside, right? So whenever people get into the business, of course they want to make money. That's the motive of it. But then how can we create a integrative business where you truly feel doing and expressing how you're here to express, because that's the ultimate reality. You're here as an artist to discover and uncover from the inside your gift, and then begin voicing that and to touch others to see their light in them. So we want to start from there, the inside, and to begin growing and building stuff. And then in the process of building, how can we stay in that ultimate reality view, the soul view of operating, so we don't get fixated into the day-to-day activity and trying to fix something that we think that's not working. um, when we run into that, we observe that and jump into the frequency of the new idea based on the vision and based on the identity that we want to create, and begin energizing that to grow. So it's just a completely different way of operating, right? So that distorted reality and the observable reality and the ultimate reality, which is a way to frame this life that I'm seeing very applicable in all areas of what we are doing. And I can see clearly how in any and every industry people are falling into this trap of operating from that distorted reality viewpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like people are losing their autonomy.
Yeah.
It's even in the health industry, like this over reliance on food pyramids and calorie counters and coaches and dietitians, and well, you'll have to probably remove that word because YouTube doesn't like you using talking about them.
Mhm.
But uh, um, the this is something I'm very passionate about. It's all of those things are modern solutions for modern problems. But
Mhm.
before they existed, or before the things that we eat that cause the problems existed, everybody was for the most part okay. Their bodies worked fine. It's only now that, and you could trust that, like if you ate food, that you were fueling yourself correctly. Obviously, if you ate too much of certain things, but people had more. What I'm saying is, people had more trust that they could figure out the solution.
Mhm.
Whereas now it just seems like everybody is looking for someone or something outside of themselves to uh, be the solution.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of being guided to realize that you are the solution or you are the power, right?
Yeah.
You know,
And mm. in the business sense, or what you were talking about now, just what came to mind for me was the being a creator who uses tools versus someone who's looking for a overnight success or someone else's magical framework that they can adopt to feel successful, or um, they're not creating it.
yeah,
They're looking for something that's already created that they can take on.
exactly. Delegating the power to something outside of them, and you know, it's very. How do I even share what I'm feeling? Where it's very odd, and it is obvious to me that that's what people needs to focus on. You know, that entrepreneurs, soulpreneurs, to focus on really building the belief in them to own your own power to through alignment, through clarity, by removing the false stories. And it's very odd to continue to see that people are looking for the way for them to break through,
Hmm.
right? The way in the outside to break through. This is the missing link outside. The missing link is has always been and will ever be you, right? The
Mhm.
alignment of you, because that's the power. So, what comes back, I'm coming back to the quotes of Einstein. You cannot solve the problem with the same level of thinking you created it, right? So people created this, let's say, problem, and people are not even aware of that because they're in the same frequency of creating the problem. But in order to change that, we want to tap into a different new way of thinking and operating from the ultimate reality soul's perspective, because you will never be free unless you live from that place, no matter how much you seem to be free from the outside.
Mhm. So, okay, I have one last question. um, oh, don't lose it now. Uh, because this is a question I get often, right?
Mm,
And how it leads up to this is like, okay, let's say I've found my inspiration, I went inward, I've begun, I'm in the essence view, I'm doing all the things that you've spoken about. Then the question comes up of how long is it going to take?
mm,
Or how do I do this?
mm. Those are two different questions, though. What's the
Yes.
second question? How do I own my power? Is that the how that you're asking?
Let's start with the first one whilst I think about that. But how long, when will I see results? When is the outside going to change? You know.
So, in the process of energy manifestation, we always talk about how and the when are not your responsibility, but what and the who are your free will responsibility. Means that you want to be very clear with what is it that you want, the desire, and to begin working on the who you're becoming, right? So then your question is the question based on what you're not responsible for, right? When is this going to happen? How long is going to take? How is this going to show up, right? The answer to that question is when you become so clear with the what, definitely, and when you cultivate the who that you're here to live, the how and the when will inevitably and effortlessly shows up. So if somebody is being in that space of not happening and not feeling when, instead of focusing on when it's going to happen, how it's going to fulfill, you want to turn the question to, am I really, really clear with what I'm here to do? Am I fully in alignment with that desire? And then work on that. Forget about when and how, and begin focusing on this food that I'm here to become. Am I becoming that now, not in the future, wanting to get there? Because if you're wanting to get to that food that you're here to be, it means that you're postponing the when because you have not become so.
So okay, and I get that 100% in that example. Let's say somebody is in a body that they're trying to change, not necessarily even pain. Let's say their body is bigger than they want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're eating in the right way, they're doing all the things, but the body doesn't want to change.
Mm-hmm.
And the language that they use often is, when is it going to change? Why is it not changing? I'm doing all the things. I've been, it's been years, months, it's been however long, it's not changing. What is the booby trap there? Is it attachment, or is it the longing versus, is it the I need to get over there to feel whole, so I need the specific body, I need to get to that place, which is a body that looks a certain way, and I'll only feel whole once I'm there, or safe or successful or whatever. That's maybe a booby trap. Or is it an attachment to the outcome, because there is a bit of a difference? What would you say is the why is the outside not changing if they are doing all the things?
Yeah. So when somebody comes to me with those questions, the first thing that I would ask is, why is it important for you to have that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And to begin removing all the I'm trying to come up with a new name of this validation journey, right? To remove all the validation journey, because if you're trying to validate yourself by acquiring something to prove to the world who you are, now you're in a completely vicious cycle of the wrong energy, right? Then you are in a resisting mode trying to get there to acquire something from the outside. And let's say, for instance, I'm not saying that if somebody's there, they cannot get there. They might be with the belief and the desire. But then once they are there, they might get addicted to that validation. Now, if people get addicted to the validation by acquiring something, now they are suddenly trapped in the hypnosis of, I'm so good because I have this and people are acknowledging me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some often people don't recognize that they are there unless you can see from the outside of your mind. Because what that means is that you feel good because you're there. It means that if you lose that, you will lose that sense of self and the feeling, right? So if somebody is ready to hear all of this and wanting to create a result from a spiritual point of view, I would go there first. And then and then once the person understands this, nothing wrong with wanting that, right? Nothing wrong with wanting that if the person can feel powerful, not because of it, but because of who they are. So that's what we want to work on first. And then once they have that, the energy needs to be, I feel good is good, but I feel even better because I can inspire others to begin believing in themselves, right? So once people step into that energy cycle, instead of the validation cycle, but more of the inspiration cycle, right? I think that's the language that I was looking for. Not operating in the validation cycle, but operate in the inspiration cycle, then you start focusing on all the things that the lifestyle that that person would be living in the process of transformation, and different intuitions, opportunities, a way will be shown to take the person there. Now, because the person is in an expansive, energetic state that is led by inspiration, not by needing to be validated. So that would be the real transformation inside out. I wouldn't say that when somebody changed the body and feels good because of the validation, I wouldn't say that that would cover the entire transformation inside,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's
They
it's,
must
it's like
feel
building it's like
beautiful
building a
without it.
business. It's like building a business without feeling whole. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And you must feel beautiful, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Always
Without
feel beautiful.
exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
So, okay, so you want to change the shape of your body, and you're doing all then so you want to feel beautiful before the change. If you're in pain, you want to feel healed, and in business you want to feel successful before there's actually you know, you don't want to look for evidence in the outside. You don't want to wait for lack of pain for the pain to go away.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's
You
the
don't want
spiritual
to
way.
Yeah, you don't want to wait for the body to change to feel beautiful. You don't want to wait for financial success to feel successful.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. You build a new model and the vision first to be there, because that's the authentic version of us. The
So,
version
what
of
about people that aren't spiritual that make a lot of money?
what about what about it? Why are they getting that?
Yeah, and whatever your thoughts are, I already heard you talk about this. I'm just throwing it in there because it's part of the conversation.
What about people who are circling a lot of monies who are not spiritual?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned last week's workshop. You said there's a lot of people that are going to Bali because they're having an identity crisis.
Exactly. I don't know why Bali, but so are you asking what do I think about people who are making a lot of money who are not spiritual?
Yeah.
I don't think of I think of nothing. They just living the life that they want, and embracing spirituality is not part of their desire because they're not aware of it. But I
So,
cannot
but if
live like them. I would never be able to live like them.
are you saying that they intuitively do these things without being spiritual because they are, I guess, innately part of the same thing we're a part of?
So
Whether they,
so so for instance, earning money can happen when somebody has a belief about it. You don't need to be spiritual at all.
Mhm,
Obviously, there are a lot of people like that,
mhm.
right? So, and there might be a group of people who just go through the entire life like that without having any interest in being whole. There are a lot of people who get there and begin noticing that there's something missing inside. I just happened to be somebody who noticed something was missing inside at the very early stage of my life. Then
Mhm.
once I started to notice that, I was not able to ignore it. That's all there is. And I think there are a lot of people like that.
They can ignore it.
Yeah. They cannot ignore it. Like they cannot just live. If somebody taps into that knowing inside, Jan, just living the life like anybody else outside, start feeling a surface based living. There's no rich meaning and the fulfillment that they feel something off.
Hmm.
And that gut knowing is important to follow, otherwise. And then, no, I don't think that everybody is here in this lifetime to actually access that knowing. But I think the more we can voice our message out loud, people who are secretly feeling will be,
Drawn.
yeah, finding us, sensing that, okay, what I'm feeling inside is not just me feeling secretly, but something that needs to be highlighted.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when I was doing the conversation with you today, I had this sort of intuitive aha moment. I don't know if you are open to this. We're having this conversation recording and then posting on YouTube, but I can also every single week go live on my Facebook through this StreamYard, just so you know.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah. And then I can populate this to upload on YouTube, because then people will be watching live, and on Facebook I would see probably people commenting and all that. So we might be able to move, not we might be able, we can move energy a little bit differently. So
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
yeah. Do you have any final comment? Yeah.
No, today was my best out of all of them so far. I say that every time.
Okay. I don't know how to spell. Okay. I want to invite everybody who is watching to the Soul Purpose group. Especially, we're having a party the end of this month, and depending on when you're watching this, today is August 26th, 2025. Next month, we're gonna have an event on belief. We have different things lined up in the group. Uh, in the group, we develop soulpreneurs, soul-led entrepreneurs who wants to grow their business from a spiritual perspective, and we're all about integrating the inside wholeness and the outside expansion. So you can find the link below to check it out, and we have a different activities going on with myself and Jan and other team members and other group members. So check the link below, and thank you, Jan, and we'll see everybody next week for episode 11. Good number.